Before the corporate takeovers and Instagram displays, Christmas in New York meant something different. The smell of roasting chestnuts mixed with subway steam, department store windows that made you believe in magic, and traditions that belonged to neighborhoods, not brands. If you remember when the Rockefeller tree lighting wasn't a televised spectacle but a neighborhood gathering, then you know the Christmas that vanished from Manhattan's streets. The Bronx location on the Grand Concourse stood like a palace every December, transforming into something that rivaled Fifth Avenue's finest displays. Alexander's didn't just decorate windows, they created entire worlds behind that glass, mechanical scenes that told stories while mothers held children on their hips to see better. The department store understood something fundamental about New York Christmas. It wasn't about luxury, it was about spectacle that everyone could access. Families would take the subway specifically to walk past those windows, making it part of their annual tradition alongside midnight mass and Christmas Eve dinner. Inside, the store became a wonderland of possibility, where working-class families could actually afford to make Christmas happen. The toy department stretched across entire floors. Saleswomen wore festive corsages, and the store stayed open until 10 at night during December so fathers coming off evening shifts could shop. Santa's throne sat surrounded by cotton snow and blinking lights, free photographs, when most professional pictures cost a week's grocery money. The store wrapped purchases in distinctive paper that announced to subway passengers you'd been to Alexander's, a badge of smart shopping. When the chain disappeared in 1992, it took with it a version of Christmas that didn't require wealth to feel magical, just a MetroCard and belief that wonders existed on the Grand Concourse. Before Macy's monopolized the holiday parade tradition, Gimbels presented their own spectacular every Thanksgiving, kicking off a Christmas season that felt distinctly different from today's commercial blitz. The competing parade meant New Yorkers had choices, different routes, different balloons, and fierce loyalty to whichever department store their family preferred. Gimbels understood pageantry in ways that reflected old New York. Their floats celebrated the immigrant communities that built the city. Their Santa arrived speaking multiple languages, and their route took different streets so neighborhoods could claim their own piece of magic. The rivalry between Gimbels and Macy's defined Christmas shopping from Thanksgiving through New Year's Eve, with each store trying to outdo the other in window displays, sales, and pure holiday spectacle. Workers at both stores wore their affiliation like team colors, and families would genuinely debate which store did Christmas better over dinner tables across the 5 boroughs. The Gimbels Parade featured union workers on floats, celebrating the laborers who made the city function while crowds cheered from tenement fire escapes and project windows. When Gimbels closed in 1987, the parade tradition consolidated, but something vital disappeared. The idea that Christmas in New York could belong to multiple visions, that working people's department stores could create magic just as spectacular as their wealthy competitors. That competition kept both stores honest, kept prices reasonable, and kept Christmas accessible to everyone riding the subway into Manhattan. The Automat restaurants transformed into unofficial community centers every Christmas season, where New Yorkers who couldn't afford restaurant dining could still experience holiday meals in warm, welcoming spaces. Those nickel slot walls dispensed more than macaroni and cheese and Boston cream pie. They offered dignity to people who needed a hot meal and a place to rest between shopping stops. Families would pool their coins, children's faces pressing against glass to pick which pie slice looked biggest, while pensioners nursed coffee refills and watched snow fall outside steamed windows. The staff decorated every location with garlands and tinsel, understanding that for many customers, the Automat was their Christmas celebration, their warm refuge, their festive gathering space. Sales girls on lunch breaks, cab drivers between fares, and families stretching limited budgets all found themselves side by side, depositing nickels for turkey dinners that tasted like Thanksgiving, even in late December. The democracy of it struck deep. Everyone used the same slots, sat at the same tables, experienced the same mechanical magic of walls that dispensed food. No waiters meant no judgment about what you ordered or how long you stayed. Horn and Hardart understood urban loneliness, especially during holidays, and created spaces where being alone didn't mean being excluded. When the last Manhattan Automat closed in 1991, the city lost gathering places where Christmas dinner cost quarters and everyone, regardless of circumstance, deserved a seat at a clean table with hot food and holiday music playing overhead. Catholic neighborhoods across the 5 boroughs emptied onto frozen streets every Christmas Eve, entire communities processing toward churches whose bells echoed between tenement buildings. These weren't gentle suburban strolls, these were rivers of humanity, families who'd lived in the same buildings for generations, walking together through darkness toward light and warmth and tradition. Men carried statues of the infant Jesus, women wore their best coats over house dresses, and children fought sleep while clutching new pajamas they'd open later, after Mass, after the real celebration began. The processions followed routes established decades earlier, stopping at designated corners where neighborhoods met and merged, where Italian families encountered Irish families, encountered Polish families, all heading toward the same mystery. Street vendors appeared at midnight selling hot chocolate and roasted chestnuts, knowing the walks home after 2-hour masses in Latin would need warming. Apartment windows blazed with candles marking the path. Elderly neighbors, too frail to walk anymore, watching from fire escapes and waving to familiar faces passing below. The churches themselves overflowed, standing room only by 11:30, incense mixing with wet wool and snowbird perfume while babies cried and grandmothers clutched rosaries they'd carried from the old country. These processions declared something essential about Christmas. In New York, faith walked through the streets, visible and communal, binding neighborhoods together through freezing darkness. When parishes consolidated and car culture spread, when midnight Mass moved to earlier convenient times, something irreplaceable vanished from December 24th, the sight of entire communities choosing to walk through winter night together toward warmth. The bargain department store on 34th Street became legendary during December, a madhouse of deals where working people could afford to create Christmas magic for their children. Orbach's didn't pretend to be elegant, it was crowded, slightly chaotic, and absolutely essential to thousands of families who needed coats, toys, and decorations at prices that made sense. The sales were real, not marketing gimmicks, with merchandise stacked high and saleswomen who remembered your name from last year. December at Orbach's meant navigating aisles packed with shopping bags, hearing 6 languages simultaneously, and understanding that everyone there shared the same goal. The gift wrap station stayed open until closing, operated by women who could fold corners and tie bows while discussing whether the bus would run late in snow. When Orbach's closed permanently in 1976, it removed a crucial piece of Christmas infrastructure from Manhattan, a place where you weren't judged for checking price tags or asking for layaway. The Christmas Spectacular at Radio City Music Hall represented peak holiday glamour, accessible to regular families who saved all year for one night of pure theatrical magic. Tickets cost real money but not impossible money, and every show packed the massive Art Deco palace with children experiencing their first live performance. The Rockettes kicked in absolute synchronization, their costumes sparkling under lights designed to make everything glow, while families from Queens and the Bronx sat in velvet seats feeling sophisticated and special. The show celebrated traditional Christmas with living nativity scenes featuring real camels on the music hall stage, wooden soldiers that seemed 12 feet tall, and Santa arriving through mechanical snow that made children gasp. The journey there became part of the magic, taking the subway into Manhattan, emerging at Rockefeller Center, seeing the tree and the decorations, all building toward that moment when the lights dimmed and the orchestra began. Modern streaming can't replicate what it felt like to sit among 3,000 other people experiencing the exact same magic simultaneously. The lunch counters and toy aisles at Woolworth's locations across New York became essential Christmas destinations, where children could actually afford to buy gifts with their own saved allowance. These weren't boutiques or specialty shops, they were democratic emporiums, where everything seemed possible because nothing cost more than a few dollars. Kids would arrive with change carefully wrapped in handkerchiefs, seriously evaluating what mother would like best, what father needed, making real purchasing decisions that taught them about generosity. The toy department stretched down long aisles, staffed by women who treated children's tiny budgets with complete respect. Christmas decorations hung from the pressed tin ceiling, while cash registers dinged constantly, recording thousands of small transactions that added up to family Christmas mornings. When Woolworth's closed its last New York store in 1997, childhood Christmas shopping lost its training ground, the place where kids learned that generosity mattered more than price tags. Underground platforms became impromptu concert halls every December, filled with musicians in Santa hats performing carols, while commuters tossed change and genuine performers mixed with hustlers in the same festive chaos. These weren't organized performances or officially sanctioned entertainment. They were pure New York, spontaneous celebrations erupting in tile-walled stations that amplified every note. Mariachi bands in Flushing, doo-wop groups in Brooklyn, accordion players in the Bronx, all wearing red hats and collecting donations in instrument cases, while rush-hour crowds paused despite their hurry. Commuters recognized regular performers, knew which stations had the best music, would plan routes to catch specific groups, creating underground traditions that never appeared in tourist guides. The performers understood that people rushing through underground darkness needed those moments of beauty, needed silent night, echoing off tiles, needed reminders that magic happened in unexpected places. The sounds of carols mixing with train announcements, Santa hats bobbing while performers played, donations dropping into cases, all of it created holiday spirit that couldn't be planned or marketed. Street corner Christmas tree vendors appeared every December like seasonal migrations, setting up fragrant forests on Manhattan sidewalks where buying a tree became neighborhood ritual. These weren't garden centers or big box stores. They were temporary encampments run by families who'd returned to the same corner for decades, remembering customers' names and which year they'd bought the crooked Scotch pine. The smell alone defined December, pine sap mixing with roasting nuts and exhaust, while vendors stamped feet in the cold and tied trees to car roofs with practiced expertise. Buying your tree meant negotiation, conversation, genuine interaction with someone who knew their product and took pride in helping families find the perfect fit. Vendors would hold up tree after tree, rotating them slowly so you could see every side, discussing density and needle retention like it mattered because it did. When corporate tree lots and delivery services replaced those corner vendors, Christmas tree buying lost its human element, became another transaction rather than an annual relationship with someone who remembered your family. Why corner lots, not stores? These memories document a version of Christmas that prioritized community over commerce, accessibility over exclusivity, and human connection over Instagram moments. The New York that created these traditions understood that holiday magic didn't require wealth, just shared experiences and spaces that welcomed everyone, regardless of their bank account. Those Christmas memories belong to true New Yorkers because they were built by and for working people, immigrants, families stretching budgets to create magic, proving that the best holiday traditions emerged from necessity and creativity rather than corporate marketing.